Cabinet meeting of Surrey County Council on the 26th of February 2019. As there are members of the public here, I will read out the fire alarm procedure, although there are no drills expected. But in the event of a fire alarm sounding, everyone present is asked to exit out of the Ashcombe Suite, which is the building we're in now, walk down the corridor, turn right down the stairs and out of the front entrance of County Hall. Please disperse to Kingston Town Centre for 30 minutes. And you can be certain that some of the Cabinet will be leading the way. In line with our guidance on the use of social media, happy for anyone attending today's meeting to use social media, provided that it doesn't disturb the business of the meeting. Can I also ask or remind people, please, if they could put their phones to silent, and also for the Cabinet members, can they mute their hybrids? And can I also point out to members of the public that there are the two, Natalie Bramall and Wyatt Ramsdale sitting at the end here, and Alison Griffiths and Cameron McIntosh sitting at the end there are Deputy Cabinet members. They therefore do not have a vote. So in the event that when we vote on certain items, if they don't raise their hands, it's because constitutionally they're not eligible to. So I welcome all the officers, members and members of the public. We have quite a busy agenda. We have some petitions and some public questions and some member questions apart from the rest of the items on the agenda. So we'll move forward at a sensible pace. But we'll start with apologies for absence. Are there any? No apologies. Thank you. Item 2, the minutes of the previous meeting on the 29th of January 2019, which have been circulated. Are those agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Any declarations of interest? No. Thank you. Okay, so we then move to the substantive agenda, and that's item 4A, which are members' questions. There's one question that has been submitted from Chris Botton, Councillor Botton. Can't see him in the room. A written response has been provided, and therefore, as he's not here, there's no supplementary. We'll take item 4B, public questions, and there's a question from Mr. John Oliver. Again, a response has been tabled, but is there a supplementary question you'd like to ask?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm grateful for the assurances that the Council Member for Environment and Waste Decisions has given in his response. I was particularly pleased to see his promise about the refurbishment of the All Ability Trail at Newlands Corner, and to hear his statement at the Environment Select Committee on Friday when he said, "I think we do a lot and we're spending money on Newlands Corner to improve that trail." That said, I was at Newlands Corner yesterday and nothing has happened as yet. Given that he told the Cabinet on 27th of October 2015 that the trail would be refurbished before parking charges were introduced, what further assurance can he now give me that this is not another false promise and that the trail will be refurbished within the coming 12 months? And if not then, when will it be completed?
Yes, as I believe Mr. Oliver does know, because I've already replied to this on at least one occasion. The plan to refurbish the trail was part of the initial business plan when we were going to put all ability trails for the elderly and young in Newlands Corner. But because that was shelved until we decide whether to go forward it's not going forward at the moment, we then had to do a business plan that actually reduced the number of visitors to Newlands Corner, which meant in that business plan we could not therefore afford to do the trail the way we wanted to do it originally. But it is still our intention to do that trail. As the money comes in, we will do it because we recognise the importance that trail is to people with disabilities and the elderly. It's a very important trail. People go there frequently, and several people have said to me how important it is, so we will be doing it.
Mr. Chairman, I did ask for a timescale. He just hasn't answered that question.
timescale would be when the money becomes available within the car parking charges and the money for the countryside. I can't today say it's going to be done next week or the week after. What I'm giving you an assurance of, it is going to be done. It depends a lot on the weather as well, when we can do it. We would not want to do it as we get into the summer because it has to be out of action for a long time. So we will do it. You've got my assurances that I'm saying it will be done.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item 6C, and there are two petitions that... Sorry, what did I say? 6C. Oh, sorry, jumping over. 4C. There are two petitions that we've received. So the first one we'll take is from Ms. Blaylock, if she is here. Yep. And this is a petition regarding the countryside parking. You have up to 3 minutes to present. There will be a red light that will come on when your 3 minutes is up, if that's okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know from your Environment Select Committee meeting on Friday that you're sick and tired of people who just oppose stuff. But the key point of these comments is to allow residents to enjoy our countryside and in doing so improve their mental and physical health. If fewer people are now using them, the Council has failed in its duty to maintain and promote them properly, and the very purpose of these sites has been eroded. The point of bringing in parking charges, you said, is to raise £200,000 a year to support sustainability and improvement of the commons. So, after 7 months, are you on track? We've asked this question already through a Freedom of Information request, but you won't tell us, arguing it isn't in the public interest to do so. We disagree. You said you'll release the information when you're ready, but why not be transparent and tell us all now? If you're on track, then perhaps your justification for making the commons inaccessible to some stands up. If not, be open and honest about it and scrap these charges. The other major question residents want answers to is how many people are now visiting the commons compared to before. After all, these 5 commons, including Newlands Corner, were chosen for their popularity. So are they still as popular? If not, scrap these charges. And finally, what are the improvements this £200,000 a year will bring, such as signs, car park services, visitor information? After 7 months, you should have an idea of whether you're on track to deliver them. So I ask you, what improvements can you now afford and at which car parks? If you don't have the answers, scrap these charges. You implemented these parking charges against a backdrop of extensive public rejection of the scheme, severely underestimating the resentment felt. You've now lost the will of the people. Nearly 15,000 people have signed 2 petitions calling on you to restore free public access to the commons. In addition, we've received dozens of emails about the displacement of vehicles to roads surrounding the commons and to neighbouring countryside sites where people can park for free. Small car parks in villages like Blackheath are now over capacity. Cars parked without consideration on grass verges and outside residents' homes. Celebrations on social media when the parking meters are out of order. Is this what you predicted in your business plan? Surely 15,000 people can't be wrong. We understand government cuts have placed huge pressures on your budget, but spending £330,000 of taxpayers' money, more if you include Newlands Corner, machine vandalism repair costs, on a scheme likely to raise perhaps only a fraction of that forecast due to dwindling visitors seems ludicrous. We're fortunate to live and work in a beautiful part of the country, and we're extremely proud of this. We care passionately about our countryside. But these commons should be accessible to everybody and not just to those who can afford it. From us all at Surrey Live, we implore you to scrap these charges and reinstate free parking for all. Give us our countryside back.
Thank you very much. Mike Goodman, are you able to...
Yes, I will. Well, first of all, thank you for your statement. As you know, I have produced a statement prior to this meeting, and in fact, many of the things in your statement we have covered and given you answers to in a written statement. That written statement will be available on our website later today. But what I have done, I have prepared a statement so people that perhaps have not seen the statement I've given will know exactly where Surrey County Council are coming from. Now, residents last year made it clear that the vision for Surrey, that they saw the environment as very important to them. The County Council agrees, And that is why our 25-year countryside strategy will commit Surrey County Council to improving and protecting the countryside now and for future generations to come. We will be launching our strategy, which is our long-term approach to managing open spaces and the habitats that we all value so much, in early summer. And it will complement the government's own 25-year environmental plan. In fact, I believe it's the only county proposing to do this. To improve, maintain and enhance our countryside requires commitment of time and resources and financing at a time when we need to get our budget in a sustainable position. Car park charges are part of that, and other approaches include one-off events on the countryside, weddings, wood sales, licences, and the revenue from the extensive property that Surrey County Council own on the countryside estate. We introduced charges in early July at Newlands Corner, and then in later July in the rest of the countryside estate. There were, without doubt, some initial problems, including vandalism of meters and travellers on Chobham Common, while a hot summer also took people away to the beaches from the countryside. And we still actually have 2 sites. Through technical reasons, we've not been able to implement that at Saltbox and Whitmore Common. They will actually be put live later this year in the spring. I have read, and I've heard from you today as well, the recent comments that people are not visiting the countryside in the numbers they were before. However, the data we've got from the counters at the car parks suggests otherwise. This is real data. Ockham and Wisley, Chobham Common and Newlands Corner are all shown analysed figures above the estimated figures we used in the business plan, which is good news. Residents have also recognised the value of purchasing season tickets at £60 a time for a year, and over 600 people have done this. Despite the various challenges of implementing car parking charges in the countryside, I believe the income we originally forecast for the first year will be exceeded. This is good news because this money will go towards maintaining the car parks, providing further information on, and also waymark trails, improving the service of paths and making them more accessible, as well as providing clear viewpoints, such as we've done recently at Newlands Corner. It will also contribute in the years ahead to the delivering of the County Council's 25-year countryside estate strategy. And I can confirm that in September we will be in a position to publish the actual figures for a year, and this will actually demonstrate the contribution to the countryside and how we've actually spent that money. I believe we all recognise the importance to health and well-being of the countryside. Car parking charges and other income streams will ensure it remains accessible for everyone to continue to enjoy. I would love all those people who have opposed the car parking charges to work with us and Surrey Wildlife Trust to protect and improve our countryside. We spent a lot of money answering questions on car park charges, and while scrutiny and queries must always be welcomed, I still really wish it could be that money going towards improving our countryside. I believe this is an opportunity for us all to work together, because by doing so, we can achieve so much more. Thank you.
Do I have the opportunity to...
No, so I'm afraid you don't, actually. As Councillor Goodman says, the statement will be published on the website later, which includes, I think, more detail on the statistics, which hopefully you'll find useful. So we'll move on to the second petition, which I think Mr. Bryant is going to present, and it's regarding the Surrey Fire and Rescue Service. I've incorrectly told Ms. Blakelock that actually when the red light goes on you have 3 minutes. In fact, that's a 1-minute warning.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm the Vice Chair of the local constituency Labour Party, and I'm presenting this petition today. I'm also the General Manager of Cobham Area Food Bank,
The food bank parks its van at Paynes Hill Fire Station, which is also one of the animal rescue centres. Because of our regular contact with our firefighters, I believe I am well placed to know how well founded the public anxiety about possible cuts is. We understand that the narrow focus of our petition, that Esher Fire Station should not be closed, may no longer be moot, as I understand that there is currently no longer a proposal to close it, although I don't think there's been any formal confirmation of this. And I understand that a new county safety plan will be open for consultation next week on the 4th of March. But our petition is aimed wider than this. We don't think that the fire service or the animal rescue service in Surrey should suffer any further cuts. We acknowledge that there has been some recruitment of firefighters following the very critical report of HM Inspectorate. But we still have very old fire engines. The one at Paynes Hill is 13 years old, and shifts which are not fully manned, which prevents the fire engines from going out. The previous proposals included ideas for replacing proper fire engines with converted transit-type vans loaded with fire extinguishers, and further closures of the animal rescue service. This would be saving money at the expense of safety and cruelty. What if your daughter's pony had fallen into a ditch and was in distress? If, as happened recently with a cow in a local farm, you had to wait with the animal in pain for a Sussex animal rescue team to come out because the Surrey teams were not sufficiently crewed? What if, when you came home from a nice supper out, it was your house which was on fire because the electrics had shorted or someone had left a pan on by mistake, and the fire engine had to come from the other end of Surrey, or worse, if it wasn't a proper fire engine at all? It isn't right to deny our firefighters adequate staffing levels, or to deny them the proper equipment, which means up-to-date proper fire engines with full crews of firefighters. Far from further cuts, local people need the Council to prioritise the necessary extra investment in order to keep us and our animals safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Denise Turner-Stewart, do you want to add it?
Thank you, Mr. Bryant, and thank you for presenting this petition on behalf of Jamal Ajan and the 637 signatories. I think it's important to consider the proposals which will be available on the 4th of March before any submission is made, and this will enable a meaningful response to be presented, giving full consideration of the whole offer and the benefits to the residents and businesses of Surrey. But thank you very much for your attendance and interest.
I think I would just add to that, because you mentioned the report from the inspector's report, a lot of that was focused on looking at improved ways of prevention, so more resource to go into looking at how we can educate and prevent fires and so on. What it didn't do in any way was suggest that members of the public were at all at risk. As you're aware, following that report, there is an improvement plan which the fire service is working its way through. And equally, there is no plan to close the fire station in Esher. So I think you need to look at what the consultation says, what we would be consulting on. Absolutely would hope that you would contribute towards that. I think we're all of the same view that this is about making sure that the public are safe, and to the extent that the fire service assists on animal rescue and so on, that they're able to do that in a way that everybody is comfortable with. So I think look at the consultation, because I think you'll be hopefully it will allay some of your fears. Thank you. So we'll now move on to item 5, which are reports from select committees, and none have been received. Item 6, Leader, Deputy Leader, Cabinet Member, Investment Board decisions since the last meeting. There is one decision that I took in relation to the disposal of a piece of land. Item 7 is the next item, which is the commissioning of Dementia Navigator Services. And Sinead Mooney will take us through this report.
Thank you, Chairman. There are Dementia Navigator professionals in each Health and Social Commissioning Group, and this report sets out the outcomes of a competitive procurement process and recommends a contract is awarded to the Alzheimer's Society. By way of background, a Dementia Navigator is a vital link if you are living with a dementia of some sort. Their role is to provide information and support people in preparation for a memory assessment, offer post-diagnostic support for people newly diagnosed with dementia, connect to a range of services available for them throughout the duration of their dementia journey. I am pleased to say that the new Dementia Navigator service is aligned with both the new Health and Wellbeing Board strategy for Surrey and the NHS long-term priority plan, which is to support our residents to live independently for as long as possible. The service will be an important part of our delivering support to the whole population, young and adult carers and vulnerable people affected by dementia, supporting them to remain independent, provide essential support and reduce the risk of isolation. This is a joint contract between Surrey County Council and 2 CCGs. The total value of the service over the life of the contract, including the extension years, is just over 1.7 million. Of this, Surrey County Council's contribution will be 456,000 and the CCG's contribution will be just over 1.2 million. That's 74% of the price of the contract. The performance numbers, if I could just highlight to Cabinet, the performance numbers reported in paragraph 10 are not absolutely clear. The number noted is per quarter and not per annum, as the report may suggest. On this basis, I am recommending this report for approval and am happy to take any comments or questions, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Yep, Councillor Kemp.
Thank you, Chair. I think worth highlighting, especially in the preface, it's noted that the social value that's going to come out of this. The organisation is going to be obviously employing trainees. There's going to be some work experience that's going to be done. So I think there's a lot of good work that's been done in the social value side of this contract. And I think that is worth noting by this committee as well.
Yeah, and I think. Oh, sorry, Mrs. Morley.
Can I just say that I think that this service is a very important service that we provide to our residents. Having had family members that have suffered from dementia, I think this is the type of thing that I would like to have available to all people. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is about helping people live, active and normal lives as far as they're able to. We will be publishing in the near future for consultation a Surrey-wide health plan, which will pick up the NHS 10-year plan and our 2030 vision. So hopefully this will pull it all together, and this is a key part of, delivering that service and improving the outcomes for our residents. Have I stolen your point, Councillor Goodman? You look as if you're... Oh, sorry. Okay. Anybody else? No. Okay, so let's just have a look at the recommendations. There are two recommendations. The first is to award the contract for the provision of these services to the Alzheimer's Society with effect from the 1st of June 2019. It'll be a 2-year contract with an option to extend for a further 2 years. And it will be delivered county-wide and to North, East, Hants and Farnham. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. So the next item is item 8, and that is the Surrey Performing Arts Library and the evaluation of the plan, but the proposal to transfer the library to a new organisation. Now, Julie Arles, I think you're going to take us through it.
Thank you, Leader. This is actually a very positive recommendation, and I'm pleased to be bringing it to Cabinet today. It has been brought to us previously, and the last decision was back in June to fully evaluate the business plan that was put forward. For brevity, I will refer to New SPAL rather than keep saying Surrey Performing Arts Library. But these recommendations have been slightly reworded from the public pack that went out because we have just provided some clarity around the transition period. And it really aims at securing the future of what is a very valued and specialist service, but also making savings for the Surrey taxpayer. As I say, we've looked at the business case for some time. The organisation that will form New SPAL will be able to develop their own identity outside of the County Council. That will give them the ability to attract funding and support that would not be possible if they were to remain within the county confines. So the recommendations go to the fact that we will provide approval for use of the current collection and equipment by New SPAL. We are delegating the authority to finalise a phased transfer of this valued collection. There will be certain performance measures during the transition period, and that transition period will be affected once we've been able to go through a sequence of steps that secure that functioning of New SPAL, things like converting their cash pledges and securing a lease on their new premises. And then we are bringing progress reports back to Cabinet review for summer 2021, after which we can make the final decision on the transfer. I would look at the business plan that supports these documents. There's a comparison of the service offers that's been put together, and the equality and impact assessment doesn't identify any potential negative impacts which cannot be mitigated. There are some possible positives, possible negatives based on the location of the collection and the improved access to the public. But this is a positive set of recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much. Colin Kemp.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a good news story. Congratulations go to the New SPAL group on the work they've done getting it to this stage, because I think this is a very valued collection, highly used by schools and other groups in the county. So I applaud them for the work in bringing this forward. And all I do is ask the Cabinet member to make sure officers support them in the transition period, to make sure this goes through smoothly as possible. Obviously keeping an eye on the protection of the collection, which is quite valuable, but I wish them all the luck for the future.
Can I just add to that, Leader? There are some members from the stakeholders and users of this group who are present today, and I echo what Councillor Kemp has said in thanking them for their progress that we've made on this. It's a very good example of working with different partners to secure a good outcome.
Denise?
Thank you. I think it's important to recognise and emphasise the significant public value of this collection and the need to ensure that access to the collection and the sustainability of its future is guaranteed for years to come. The report demonstrates a level of care that will be maintained to ensure a smooth transition to New SPAL from Surrey County Council, and I commend the time and attention from officers and members and all involved at New SPAL that's been given to give clarity and confidence around these transitional arrangements. And I wish New SPAL the very best in their journey to becoming the custodian of the Surrey Performing Arts Library.
And we would all absolutely echo that. It's a bit disappointing that you didn't turn up today in your T-shirts and things. But, we recognise a few. I mean, I know it's been a long journey to get to this point, but definitely worthwhile, all of the effort. What I'm going to do is I'm going to read the recommendations out, because there has been a little bit of toing and froing within the Cabinet, at least, in terms of just getting this to where we want to be. So just for the sake of clarity, if you'll bear with me. So the first recommendation is that approval be given by New, and I'll call it SPAL as well, New SPAL, using the current SPAL collection and equipment to offer a performing arts library service to the public. Secondly, authority be delegated to finalise the phased transfer of the collection and equipment on a conditional basis for a transitional period, and that be to the Director of Education, Lifelong Learning and Culture and the Cabinet Member for All Age Learning, in anticipation of a final unconditional transfer and gifting of the collection and equipment. Thirdly, the responsible officer should agree a set of performance measures with New SPAL throughout the transition period in order to evaluate progress and performance and inform the final decision by Surrey County Council on the transfer. Fourthly, approval is given for officers to report on progress to the Cabinet Member for All Age Learning and set a deadline for completion of the lease negotiations between New SPAL and Woking Borough Council that is appropriate with the transition period. Fifthly, approval is given to the responsible officer to report annually on progress towards the final transfer to the Cabinet Member for All Age Learning. And then finally, a Cabinet will review progress in the summer of 2021 with a final decision on unconditional transfer and gifting of the collection and equipment to be taken by the Cabinet at the end of the transitional period. It's a rather long way of saying that we will work, the officers work with you over the next 2 years to help and support you, get yourselves moved to Woking if that's where you choose to go, to finalise your business plan, to raise the funding that you've talked about. And at the end of that 2-year period, hopefully we will be in a position to confirm the transfer of the collection to you. So hopefully that meets your requirements and expectations. We are going to vote, yes, just about to, yes. Right, so those are the 6 recommendations. I won't reread them, Colin. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm afraid we're going to move on to something rather less interesting for most members. It's more of an internal thing, but the next item on the agenda, item 9, is the Agile Workforce Device Procurement. Perhaps, Charlotte, if you just wait for members to leave. Okay, item 9 then, Charlotte.
Thank you. I was going to say this is another very exciting agenda item. Well, it is for corporate support, it is. The Agile Working. This report is asking the Cabinet to delegate the award of a framework contract to purchase Agile Working computing devices. Each purchase under this contract will have to be authorised separately, the details of which are in paragraph 22 on page 99. We will be using these devices to provide a better experience to residents. As was expressed in the recent Adult Social Care member briefing, we're using a mobile device to input information while in the client's home as part of the discussion, rather than taking notes and inputting it back at the office. This will enable our staff to work more flexibly and efficiently and allow a 2-to-1 desk ratio in the future. The contract also includes our Orbis partners of East Sussex and Brighton and Hove, so with this larger purchasing power we have achieved better prices. The framework contract will enable us to buy from a catalogue, so we'll be able to buy the latest products as we continue to use this contract. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think it is important to emphasise that this is all about better ways of working for the individual, a better use of space in our buildings, and indeed a key project as we move as we move out of county or plan our move out of county hall. So I think agile working and all that goes with it is absolutely key to all that we will be looking at over the coming months. Sinead.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to commend the report as well, because I'm thinking of particular services and client groups, residents who really benefit from agile working. And obviously with my portfolio head on, I am thinking about those residents that access social services, and I can see huge benefits for them with members of staff going out on the field and engaging with residents in their home, doing assessments, etc. So I recommend this as well. Thank you.
So there is one recommendation that a delegated authority be granted to the Executive Director for Customers, Digital and Transformation, consultation with Leader of Council and Cabinet Member for Corporate Support to award a framework call-off contract. And just to explain that, that means that we can call off whatever number of units or whatever we need. There's no fixed obligation to take any particular number. To call off contract for the end user computer devices and associated services following the successful delivery of the procurement project. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Moving on then. Yes, item 10. I think you might struggle to make this one exciting, Charlotte. Is the Microsoft Enterprise License Agreement Renewal.
This report is the award of a contract to supply Microsoft licences. As always, we are focusing on striking the best value for our residents. By renewing our licences now, we avoid the £79,000 price rise that happened late last year. In addition, we are reviewing the licences that we use to ensure that only those who require the software have the licence, and where we can benefit from educational licences, we do so. In addition, we are also participating in the push for the whole of the public sector to be treated in a similar way to the educational sector. There is provision for a reduction in the total number of licences that we use should we decide that that's the correct thing for us. Thank you.
Any questions on this? I mean, to be fair, we have had a good look at this. I mean, it's a not insignificant cost to this council. There have been audits done and will be of what we need by individual and so on. It is a part of life for all of us now to IT equipment and licensing. So I think this gives us the best opportunity to get those licenses at a good price and support that goes with it. So all those in favour? Thank you very much. Then we move on to a topic that probably affects most people, and that is the exiting from the European Union. And our preparations for that. Colin, you're going to help us with this one.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, talking about exciting topics, we'll get on to the B word. This is our preparation for Brexit, which has been a great piece of work on partnership working. Firstly, obviously, within the county, when there are boroughs and districts, health partners, etc., but also external to Surrey, with the neighbouring counties, and the Army have been involved. Everyone's been involved in actually putting this together. It's a great piece of work. The government, very helpfully, if you look at Annex A, released an item of work, and there are 7 points there that we should be concentrating on. And this report shows the responses to those and shows the work that's going on. Obviously, the final decision, when it comes and what it will look like, is still an unknown. But this is to show that there is a lot of work going on behind the scenes to support our business users, to support our residents, to support our staff, and just make sure that any consequences of whatever happens are mitigated to the best of our possible ability. So this is just not for a decision, Chair, but this is obviously just to be noted. But this is just to show that the work's going on and our responses to the government question, the questions the government have put to us, and what we should be mindful of.
And if at our next Cabinet meeting, which is in March, we'll either be further forward in terms of where we're going to be at the end of March, or we may not be. Can we assume that you'll bring a more detailed report to that next Cabinet meeting, because we'll be nearer the date?
I can guarantee to bring you another report. How detailed it is, depending on what we know, will be subject to what we know at the time. But absolutely, yeah, we will bring we will obviously do updates on our website and obviously communications out to members of the public and members. But yes, absolutely, happy to bring something back to the next Cabinet meeting, depending where we are at that point.
Denise.
Thank you. I think we're all aware that the Cabinet Member, Deputy Leader Colin Kemp, is very active outside of Surrey with our neighbouring authorities and partners. Regardless of the outcome of Brexit, would you agree that this is actually a catalyst for actually improving our partnership arrangements and those synergies in between government partners and, as I say, our neighbouring authorities in terms of those relationships going forward? That is a key priority for Surrey.
Absolutely, and it does enhance those relationships. There's a lot of mentions in here about the local resilience forums. It sort of cements a lot of that works there. We obviously do a lot of emergency planning, which obviously yourself will get involved with, and this has just cemented a lot of those relationships and highlighted the importance and things we've learned over the years with other situations that have come forward, and how we're now better prepared to deal with any incidents that comes forward. So absolutely, all those relationships are now in a really strong place.
Okay, so the recommendation is to endorse the current position in relation to the Council's preparations and so on. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you very much. So the last item on the public agenda is the Finance and Budget Monitoring Report to 31st December 2018. Mel Pugh.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. This report presents the financial results for the period ending 9, and it reflects the continued improvement in adult social care performance, children's services holding their own forecast, and other minor performances improvements in the rest of the service. With 3 months to go to the end of the financial year, indications are that the use of reserves to balance the budget will be reduced from 21 million to 4.3 per this report. And considering the savings target, including the revised savings midway through the year, totaling 106 million, this is an outstanding achievement. And I'm certain that the Cabinet will endorse the result and the efforts made by many people and many staff members to achieve this level of savings. Based on that, I'm fairly confident at this stage that we'll get to the end of period 12 with a balanced budget. So I'm hoping that we get the period 10 results out shortly, so we'll hopefully see that coming through. All Cabinet members have confirmed their outlook as presented on page 127 for the year. On page 128, the capital expenditure is now forecast at 124.4 million, and those details are reflected on the paper. Table 3 reflects the reserves at the end of period 9, and members will note the movement of 17.1 million as an increase in those reserves due to the waste sinking fund reserve, which has been established. Still under discussion, but this is mainly due to the delay in bringing the Eco Park project online. And once the sinking fund, once this machine and equipment is online, the sinking fund will be drawn down over the years. Table 4 reflects the debt owed to the County Council, and members will note that the overdue items under adult social care are reflected as significant amount is overdue, and with the reorganisation of the transfer of the responsibility from shared services to adult social care and the additional staff that are being brought into adult social care, I'll be watching this reduce very carefully. And then finally, page 130 covers the Treasury position of the county. The report reflects that the county is operating well within its authorised limit of borrowing as set out in paragraph 10 on page 130. And then table 5 reflects the net increase in borrowings as we reach the end of the financial year of £102 million. And that's the easy part of the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any matters that... Councillor Campbell.
Sorry, I seem to be speaking a lot, Chair. I wanted to congratulate, actually, Councillor Few for his hard work. Congratulations to the officers that have been involved in this. I think this is a great step forward that's been made over this year in understanding the finance, getting to grips with them, getting on top of them. And I think, there's a lot of good work, and it really feels in a lot more better place. We've still got some challenges over the next couple of years, but I think this has given us a good, stable base to actually go forward and start delivering on next year's budget. So I just wanted to, I think it's worth acknowledging the work by the officers and members that have been involved in this.
And indeed, I wanted to add to that, both in terms of the work that Mel Pugh has done in, I think, with the White House simplifying this report. It's very readable, I hope, for residents, very understandable. One shouldn't lose sight of the fact, though, that Cabinet members also have ownership of their own service areas and the numbers, so they are as familiar with them, I hope, as is Mel, as the Finance Cabinet member. But also the officers. I mean, this organisation has been going through some very turbulent and challenging times as we push forward with the transformation programmes. It's unsettling for many, but despite that, the officers have remained very focused on delivering the day job, and to achieve, if that's where we end, which I hope and think we will, to deliver 106 million of savings this financial year will have been outstanding, and those aren't savings that have been delivered simply by cutting frontline services. Those have been looking at every aspect of cost in this council, as we will continue to do next year as we set out in the budget. So I genuinely believe that some real progress has been made with the support and leadership of Joanna Killian as Chief Executive and the Executive Directors. We're not there yet, but I think we are moving along the right road, and having a simple view of our finances, which I think this report does, certainly helps with that and gives us the confidence to believe that we are moving in the right direction. On that note, there are two recommendations. One is to note the overall revenue and capital budget, and the other, that the Cabinet members have confirmed their service forecast for the year. Are we happy to agree those? Agree. Thank you very much. That then brings us to the end of the public part of this meeting. We'll now go into part two. I'll read out the resolution, but perhaps members of the public wouldn't mind leaving at this point. Under Section 100A of the Local Government Act 1972, the public be excluded from the meeting during consideration of the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information under the relevant paragraphs of Part 1 of Schedule 12A.